presenters to be leading that conversation, including some of my colleagues who I work with on a daily basis, like Mercedes Butowski, Jonathan Seyfried, Molly Green, and Bill Freeman, and a whole host of others from across government and different organizations. So it's going to be a really great week, full of important conversations, a lot of learning, a lot of discussing going on. And as everybody should know, a lot of this is going to be recorded. And so if you can't participate live, which is always the best if you can, but it'll be available to you. And, I would definitely urge people to avail themselves of this presentation. What I thought I would do is tell a little bit about myself, including the longest title in state government, tell a little bit about myself, my journey, some of the work we do here in New Jersey, and then sort of jump into the conversation about transitions, and then love to open it up and hear people's thoughts, questions, and what have you. And we'll just take it from there, and we'll get this program underway. So again, my name is Paul Aronsohn, and as Amy noted, I do have the longest title in state government. I'm New Jersey's Ombudsman for individuals with intellectual or developmental disabilities and their families. It's a relatively new office and new title. It was created just about 5.5 years ago. And I'll tell more about that also in a little bit. I also have the honor, last year I was appointed by President Biden to serve as a member of the President's Committee for People with Intellectual Disabilities. And so my full-time job is here in New Jersey, working as the Ombudsman, but I also have this opportunity to serve on this advisory body. And if anyone has any questions about that, I'll be more than happy to discuss that and share that with you. So for me, like a lot of folks that are involved in this space, I come to disability, I come to the work I'm doing now because I have a personal connection. For me, I'm a family member, I'm a sibling, the youngest of 4 in a family. I have all 3 of my siblings have had a mix of disabilities and healthcare challenges. And so it's really through them that I learned so much about disability and became very impassioned about disability. But it was particularly my sister, Patty, who was a few years older than me. Patty had developmental disabilities. As a child, she had learning disabilities, some cognitive issues, some behavioral challenges. Physically, she was very independent, very much the athlete. She loved to dance. She and I used to play baseball together. As Patty, Patty went through the school system, and I think it was called special ed back in the day, but it went special education classes, and she graduated. She actually went to NYU, New York University used to have a program, I don't know if they still do, for special ed students who want to go on and work with children. My sister loved babysitting. She loved taking care of kids. And so she went on and she went through that program, and she became a teacher's aide at the United Nations Daycare Center, which was really cool. And I sometimes would visit her there. But while she was in her 20s, her disability started to express itself physically. And she started to need a cane, and she needed crutches, a walker, and eventually she needed use of a wheelchair. And eventually Patty became quadriplegic. She required a feeding tube, trach. And so through Patty, I learned so much about disability and the way she lived her life and the way she found her way through her challenges. She was my number one teacher. And my mom also, as her caregiver, when we were children, to some extent, not really understanding disability as much, but as an adult and as Patty lost her physical independence and my mom stepped in a big way, I really learned what families go through and the challenges and the stresses and the concerns and the fears that a mother and a parent goes through. And so through my mom and through my sister, I learned about disability. I became very passionate about disability. And so not surprisingly, like a lot of folks who have disability in their family, I started to get involved in disability organizations, worked on a range of everything from Spinal Cord Injury Association to the Adler Aphasia organization to the Center for Independent Living up here in Bergen in Hudson County, Heightened Independence and Progress. And so I get involved in a lot of disability organizations. And I also, through my work, primarily when I became a council member in Ridgewood, first thing I did is I set up a disability committee in town. And when I was mayor, I worked with a lot of the families in town to on disability issues. So it's been sort of part of my life since the beginning, and carry that forward. In 2017, I was sort of like an informal, volunteer disability advisor to the Murphy gubernatorial campaign. And I would work with some of the folks on staff there, sometimes serve as a surrogate for the candidate, different events. And then in 2018, when Phil Murphy became Governor Murphy, I was appointed to this position of ombudsman. And I'll tell you, and I was mentioning this to Amy earlier, I was asked, somebody was saying that they didn't know what an ombudsman was to me recently. And I explained that when I was appointed to this position, one of the first things I had to do was look up what the word ombudsman meant. And then it took me a few months to be able to pronounce it properly. But it was a real honor to be named New Jersey's first ombudsman for individuals with intellectual disabilities and their families. And I've been in this position, and the office has been operational for about 5.5 years now. And it really has been, in many respects, my life's work. Being able to work day in and day out, literally 7 days a week on issues that you feel very passionate about, and to work for an administration that's been very supportive of the work I do has just been a real blessing for me. The office was born out of the recognition. I should say it was created, by some New Jersey legislators back in December 2017. And it was signed into law by Governor Christie in January 2018. And so when the Governor Murphy came in, this office was brand new. And so I was appointed to be the first one. And it was born, the office and the position were born out of the recognition that while here in New Jersey, there are a lot of resources for children as well as adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. It's a very complex system, and it can be overwhelming, and it's very difficult to navigate. There are more offices and more divisions and more acronyms and more policies, and they're changing all the time. And so for an individual and a family with lifelong disabilities, it can be a real challenge. And so they created our office to be a resource, to work with individuals and families to help make sure they get the services and supports that they need and that they deserve. The legislation that created the office sort of created, I had a list of sort of the responsibilities, but we've put them into 3 buckets. First and foremost, we work to make sure on a daily basis that individuals get those services and supports they need and deserve. And that means we spend probably about 80% of our time troubleshooting with families, trying to connect them to the right resource, the right person, the right office, trying to help answer their questions, point them in the right direction, help them navigate what can be, again, an overwhelmingly complex system of supports and services. Second, because we work so closely with individuals and families, we try to use what we've learned from them and share it with our colleagues in state government to improve the system. We're constantly, trying to make recommendations and trying to make suggestions on how to make, the system more user-friendly, more accessible, more person-centered. And we do that because we're working, again, very closely and personal with individuals and families, and we learn what's working, what's not working through their experiences. In that respect, we sort of serve as like a nexus between the decision makers and those impacted by the decisions. And so we try to really connect and share information back and forth between them. And third, and very importantly, and this is sort of overarching, we see it as our responsibility to help make sure that the voice of individuals and the voice of families is heard, and that it's heard in a meaningful way, not just on issues that directly impact that family, but again, in that larger policy discussion that takes place in Trenton, making sure that it's informed and that people with disabilities and their family members have a seat at the table. And so we're often not only advocating for individuals and families, more importantly, we help them advocate. We help make sure that their voice is heard, and we try to, as much as we can, try to directly connect them with the decision makers and the people making policies and responsible for the supports and services, again, children as well as adults. To do this, from the very beginning, as I alluded to, we work very directly and in a very personal way with the people we serve. And from the beginning, that has meant, talking with them directly one-on-one on the phone, now since COVID through video, but whenever possible, particularly before COVID and subsequently, as we've been coming out of it, going to them, going to where they live, where they work, where they go to school, meeting the other family members, seeing where they live, seeing the challenges and the opportunities that might exist. And it allows us to not only help them in a more impactful way, but again, it allows us to sort of inform the larger policy discussions that are taking place throughout Trenton and throughout the whole state. And so I spend as much time as I can in my car. When I first got this job, they were trying to figure out where to house me, where to put my office. And, I said at the very beginning, more important that I need a car because I really wanted, as a family member, I know how important that personal touch is. And I will tell you that the odometer on my state car has exceeded 100,000 recently. And I got it. I think there was about 7,000 miles on the car when I first got it. And it's about 100,001 now or something. I don't know. But so we're trying to figure that out. But it underscores, in this very small state, how much driving we've done and, how we approach the individuals and the families that we work with. But we do have an office. It is in Trenton. For the first 2 years of this job, it was just me alone. Then I was joined by Christine Bachter, who is now our deputy. And then a year later, Charles Dodge joined us. And just this past March, Suhani Prohit has joined us. And so there's 4 of us. We're actually about to advertise for a 5th person to help us. So we're growing, but we're growing, I would like to grow a little quicker, but we're trying to do, we've really approached this recognizing that this is a new office and it is really an experiment in some respects in human services, because nothing quite like this, I think, not only hasn't existed in New Jersey, but it hasn't really existed nationwide. And so we're trying to sort of fly the plane, while we're building it and do so in a smart way, in a very thoughtful way. Since the beginning, we've wanted to not, sort of duplicate what's being done in other offices by other agencies, but really try to find, what that niche is, where we can sort of help and bring value added to the system for everybody, for colleagues throughout state government and the advocacy community and the provider community, but particularly for individuals and families. And so we've really tried to grow smartly, if you will, and that has meant also growing slowly. But we are busy. Again, we work with individuals and families on the full range of issues. No issues too small or too large. Not a day goes by when we don't learn something, and new issues brought to our attention. And we work with individuals and families. Sometimes it's a one-off thing; they just have a quick question on something. Some families we've been working with my whole time in this position for 5.5 years, because as we know, these are lifelong challenges. And today it's this issue, tomorrow it's that issue, and next month it's going to be another issue. And so we're here and we really try to, help folks, pretty much available. I hate to say 7 days a week, but we are, to some extent, because we recognize that disability doesn't, sort of present itself 9 to 5, that, these night times, it's weekends, holidays, vacations, what have you. So we try to make ourselves always available to the extent possible. And again, so we work on a full range of issues from access to healthcare, to housing, to transportation, to education, criminal justice. We help folks with employment issues, just whatever issue, people have. But I will tell you, and this is one of the reasons I get so excited about this conference, is one of the issues that we work with families a lot is on transitions. Because despite the diversity, of family situations and disabilities, one thing, all families with disability have in common is the child with disability becomes an adult with disability, and there's a transition that needs to take place. And sometimes that transition is smooth and seamless. One of the things I learned quickly taking this job is that concern a lot of families have about falling off the cliff, because at 21, services and supports are no longer an entitlement. It's no longer federally, required by the state. But the good news is that there's a lot of resources here in New Jersey for those 21 and older. The challenge is knowing about them and how to accessing them. And, we don't know what we don't know, right? So it's making sure that individuals and families have the information they need so they can navigate, so they can have a seamless transition. And we all know, though, that, a lot of this takes place at the school level. And, the transitions are not the same across the board. I remember when I was mayor of my town, before I took this position, talking to families who were, fearful of falling off that cliff, and, how to make the transitions. I happen to come from a town that had a lot of resources. We had a strong, transitions program. But even for those families, it was a challenge because there's just so many issues that have to be addressed. It's not just, transitioning from high school, into maybe the Division on Developmental Disabilities or the Division on Vocational Rehabilitation Services in terms of a job. It might be transitioning into higher education. It's also, transitioning in terms of legal status issues. When you turn 18, does the family need, guardianship? Are they going to do, power of attorney? Are they going to look into supportive decision-making? When you turn 18, does the family need, Social Security, supplemental security income, or Medicaid? Transitioning from a pediatrician to an adult, a doctor in the adult world who doesn't know your son or daughter, who's not as familiar not only with your son or daughter, but they're not familiar with an intellectual developmental disabilities. Same things in terms of making transition in the dental space. There's transportation issues. The school bus doesn't show up at 8 a.m. and drop your son or daughter off at 3 or 4 p.m. Now you have to think about, where are you located geographically in the state? How are they going to get to work or get to the day program? There's just a myriad of issues that need to be addressed, and it can be overwhelming for families. It can be overwhelming for families with neurotypical children. But it's particularly challenging for families, with children with disabilities. And so making that transition smooth, making it, that's sort of the purpose of this conference. And it's a purpose of a lot of good work that gets done throughout the state. I know DDD does a lot, the Department of Education does a lot, the ARC of New Jersey does a lot, the New Jersey Council on Developmental Disabilities does a lot, but it's still a lot for families. It can be overwhelming. One of the suggestions we've made in our office over the years is that it would be great if somehow we could marry every child who is classified, every student who's classified, with a case manager or what we call in the adult world a support coordinator, somebody who can just be a resource for that student and that family beginning at age 16, 17, 18, whatever we could do, to not only tell them what they need to start asking about, to tell them about the resources, but to be there to answer questions. Right now in some districts, depending on your zip code, you may not have that resource. And so a family doesn't know what they don't know. They don't know who to ask. They don't know what to ask. They don't know what's available. And so, providing and not every, again, we know the diversity of, students with disabilities. We know not every child is necessarily going to need the Division on Developmental Disabilities. Not every child is going to need, Division on Vocational Rehabilitation Services. Not everyone's going to need that, but making them aware of their opportunities and the options that are available, the resources that are available, to me, that would go a long way. That way, the zip code, whatever zip code you come from, won't determine sort of your future. You'll know, everybody will know, because I'll tell you, and one of the things that's we that haunts us in our office, because we deal with a lot of families that are usually, in time-sensitive crisis situations. But one of the things that concerns us is that a lot of kids in our state, we fear, don't just sort of fall off the cliff, so to speak, but that they fall off the grid at age 21. That maybe because of language barriers, because of cultural barriers, socioeconomic barriers, whatever the reason, they're aging out of the system. And they're not ending up in a day program. They're not ending up in competitive integrated employment. They're not ending up in a higher education institution. They're ending up in their family living room with nothing to do, because that family hasn't been connected to their resources. And so, just going back to this conference, conferences like this are so vitally important, because there is a lot out there. There are so many resources available. We're very lucky in New Jersey. We do have these resources. But families need to understand them. We need to know where to go, need to sort of know, who to ask what question. And so throughout the course of this week, you're going to have an opportunity to meet a lot of these folks, a lot of the folks that are sort of running these offices, making these decisions, people that can provide the resources that you need, that your child, your son or daughter need and deserve. So I really, again, just encourage you to sort of avail yourself to all you're going to be hearing and listening. Hopefully there's going to be opportunity for engagement with all of our presenters. In that spirit, I'd love to just open it up now, Amy, if possible, see if anybody has any questions, suggestions. Love to engage people in conversation.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. There's a question in the chat from Jill about why can there not be a case manager for each person?
I don't know if there can't be. I think there can be, and I know people always say, well, we don't have money for everything. Well, to me, this would be a great investment, and this wouldn't probably cost that much in the scheme of things. In fact, arguably, if you invest up front in many things, sometimes you save money in the end. So we should be able to do it, and we should make sure that every student who has an IEP, every student with a disability has the same opportunity, no matter where they live in our state. And I think we can do that. And I think it's just a matter of sharing information. It's not a new program. It's just making sure people know what to ask, know what's available, and know what they do, that their son or daughter should have.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. That right now is the only question in the chat. You all are welcome to add more. Jill says, thank you, Paul.
Very welcome. Thank you.
You're also welcome. If you feel comfortable, you can unmute yourself. If you have a question you'd like to speak with Paul directly, you're welcome to do that as well, or place your question in the chat and we can read it for you.
And also, encourage folks, if you don't have a question now or a thought, or, reach out to us. We'll get together with you. We can answer it by email. We can get on the phone. I'll come to your home. We can have a meeting wherever you want. Really see us as a resource that is available to you. This is something, folks in government, again, when they created our office and when Governor Murphy appointed me, recognize that families need and deserve more information and more assistance. And that's why we're here.
Thank you, Paul. I have a question for you.
Sure.
Is there a most common barrier or challenge that people experience when they're transitioning into the adult system that you hear of?
So generally speaking, I think it's the complexity. I always say the complexity of our system is probably the greatest barrier to people getting the services and supports they need and deserve. In terms of the transition, it's not knowing what's out there, I think, and not knowing who to ask. And knowing that, your son and daughter, you have a right to this, you have a right to supports and services, and it may not be established as an entitlement, like it is pre-21, but you do, and it's here. And again, we live in a state which has a lot of resources, which has committed itself, dedicated itself to providing these supports and services. And so it's really trying to, find the right place to ask, ask the question. Hopefully that's at your school level, but it can be at your county disability office. It can be in our office, can be, and there's so many in the advocacy community that can be helpful too. But it's just knowing what to ask and what's available.
Thank you. Okay, some more coming in from the chat. Someone is asking, how do they reach your office?
I don't know if you can provide my email address. We have a website. I will tell you, it's a work in progress. It's something that Charles has been working on. We've been really trying to make it a one-stop shop for families with intellectual developmental disabilities. So I encourage you to visit our website. Give us some feedback on it too. Tell us if it is helpful. We've tried to make it very user-friendly, but you can reach us through that website. You can email me directly. The only thing I would encourage folks is if you don't hear, we try to be as responsive. We try to get right back to you, but there's only 4 of us. And sometimes we get inundated with emails and phone calls. So if you don't hear back, don't take it personal. Don't read anything into it. Just email us again. Usually the second time, we're on it. So
I also want to plug your new Facebook page. You guys have page.
That's right. It's a new Facebook page. Please friend us, join.
And your contact info is on there. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, taking us a while to get it up. Again, we've had limited bandwidth and, just not enough hours in the day. but we really are trying to use it as an opportunity to sort of push out information. But in terms of incoming information, always feel free to email us. Always feel free to, ask for a meeting or a phone conversation, whatever works best for you. Thank you.
And we also have it, your contact info is listed under your bio on this website, New Jersey Youth, njyouthtransition.life. Under the Keynote Speaker tab, Paul's contact info is right there at the top. Another question for you, Paul, from Cindy. Has your office done any work around losing AI DuPont as a medical provider for NJ Medicaid?
No, I've only had one family contact us. If you want to talk more, I would definitely suggest reaching out to us. In our office, again, by the very nature of the work we do and the size of our office, we're very reactive. Something, long-term, I envision an ombudsman's office that can be a little more proactive, including looking at what other states are doing and taking on issues long-term. But what we do is we tend to sort of get involved in an issue when it's brought to our attention. So if you want to reach out to us, we're more than happy to sort of help navigate that issue with you.
Thank you. Anne has a question for you. What do you feel is your office's greatest accomplishment thus far? It's a great question.
It is a great question, and I appreciate it. And, we get asked that often, and sometimes, people always often ask, what's success? Like, what it's, and I say, when we get that email from a family we've been working with, and they say, yes, we got our tier change, or yes, I got into the program, and that I can't tell you how much that means to us. But I think if anything, our great success is, helping to inform the conversation around disability that takes place within New Jersey. Shining a light on issues that need to be addressed. We really try to use, I didn't mention this, we do an annual report that goes to the governor, that goes to legislators, it goes to, anybody who will read it. It's on our website. And we've really tried to use that report, not in sort of the typical annual report fashion to sort of tout the accomplishments of the year prior, but we really do to try to shine a light on the issues that are brought to our attention by individuals and families, really trying to sort of inform the conversation that's taking place around disability. We would, by the very nature of our office, again, people usually come to us when there's a problem. We acknowledge that there's a lot of good stuff going on in New Jersey. I mean, there really are. There's a lot of good people, a lot of resources, a lot of people trying to do the right thing. We tend to sort of focus on those things that are not working and the shortcomings, because that's what the individuals and families bring to us. And so what we've tried to do is really, drive the conversation, inform the conversation, using the experiences that are brought to our attention, using the voices of the individuals and families to do that driving, to do that informing. So I think one of the best things we've done, and probably one of our biggest accomplishments, is really helping to inform and drive that conversation. And it really is thanks to the individuals and families who contact us, who share their experiences with us, who invite us into their lives and tell us what's working and what's not working.
Thank you. I have a question, another one for you, Paul. I know you're a very humble person, and so you don't talk about this often, but it's all over the news that you just won an award and you're featured with President Biden. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Oh, yeah, that was nice. Yeah, so I was given an award by the New Jersey Council on Developmental Disabilities for systems change. And it's a real honor. It's always nice to be recognized for the work we do, right? It's even more important when more meaningful when it's work that you care passionately about. And in this case, from an organization who I have so much respect for, and, and the people, the staff, the board of the council. So to be recognized by them was indeed a real honor. And then, I had the opportunity just within the same few days I was invited to the White House for an anniversary celebration with the president and the vice president. It was recognizing the 33rd anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act, and also, really importantly, the 50th anniversary of the Rehabilitation Act in Section 504, which was one of the really first pieces of civil rights legislation for people with disabilities back in 1973. And so it was a great ceremony out on the White House lawn. And I had an opportunity to meet the president, meet the vice president. It was really exciting to see a lot of disability advocates there getting the recognition that they deserve.
I love it. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And you mentioned the New Jersey Council on Developmental Disabilities. The executive director, her name is Mercedes Witowski. For those that don't know, she will be our keynote speaker on Thursday. So we hope that you join us at that time too. There's some congratulations coming in from the chat.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you.
And here's a question from Eric. He says that I work with special education students in grade 12 as a transition liaison, sifting through all the resources, acronyms, we know about that, right? It's like a whole nother language, and information is challenging. Do you have any suggestions on ways to simplify the process?
Well, one of the things, I mean, first of all, in communication. So one of the things we've tried to do with our website, when I started this job, I looked at all the different websites that sort of, that are out there. And there's a lot of information, but we know too much information can be overwhelming. And if it's not timely and if it's not organized in a way. So what we've really tried to do on our website is try to make it that one place you can go that will lead you in different directions, but can help sort of simplify it, if you will. But, again, different organizations from DDD, ARC of New Jersey, have good resources that can help. But I would encourage you, the families you work with, to reach out to our office. We can be here. It's somebody who can just sort of answer questions, point in the right direction, come back to us with other questions. Because it's a lot. And again, it's a lot for any family. And there's so many issues. Again, it's not just DDD or work or day program or what have you. There are so many. There's the medical, there's the legal, there's financial. So we're here, and and there are other resources, but feel free to reach out to us at any time.
Thank you. Folks are private messaging me asking for your website. So I'm going to drop your nj.gov website into the chat.
That'd be great. And if you could throw my email address in there too,
I don't have the ability to access it right now because of recording, but April, are you able to do that? We can definitely.
And it's on the website too. You can just click on it. We have a disability ombudsman general email, which I encourage people, because that way other eyes are on it, or you can just click on mine and email directly to me.
Okay. I'm also going to put the sign-in sheet in the chat too, because for people that do that, we'll follow up with your contact info and the CEU certificate. And right. April just dropped your email in the chat. Thanks.
Thank you.
Paul, can I ask a favor?
Sure.
Can you smile and do that thumbs up one more time? I want to take a screenshot. Thank you, sir.
That's fine. I had a chance to see April at the resource fair she put together down in Camden County. Extraordinary resource fair. If anyone down South Jersey, you should definitely go next year. Great opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you.
Largest resource fair for health and human services and social services in the state. So great job, April.
Thank you, guys. The resource fair, Jill, is that what you're asking, when it is? Okay, it's usually every September. This past year, it was Thursday, September 28th, and it's at the Voorhees Town Center. So there's plenty of space, free parking, and a bus stop. I'll be sure to share the information for next year as soon as I book it, and perhaps we'll be able to put that on the conference website. Thank you for asking.
I also just wanted to add on to what you were saying earlier, in Eric's question, for the response to Eric's question, who works as a transition liaison. Eric, the New Jersey Youth Transition Conference is the most comprehensive conference for people that are aging out of the youth system or graduating from schools and coming into the adult systems of care. And we only feature state resources. So state, local, county resources are highlighted here. And we have 30-something workshops scheduled for the entire weeks, 27 or so in person, and we have some pre-records as well. So hopefully you find that helpful. Any other questions for Paul?
Well, again, thank you for this opportunity. And again, really excited to be here and join all of you. I'm going to try to tune into as many of the programs as I can during the course of the week and catch the recordings. But I can't encourage anybody enough, reach out to us if we can help in any way. That's why we're here. So thank you. Thanks, Amy. Thanks, April. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. Always a pleasure to have you. We appreciate you being our formal advisor and wish you all the best in all of your endeavors.
Thank you.
But next time you go to the White House, you have to remember to bring me. You forgot me this
Okay,
time.
I forgot. Next time. All right.
Thank you,
Thank
Paul.
you.
Thanks.